ahead.
Okay. Well, I just kind of wanted to recap this weekend's events with the fires. When we went back out and counted, we counted locations that had physical breaks between fires, and that count comes to 31 across about 20 miles of Highway 27 and Highway 36. St. Francis Fire has 5 trucks that can actively fight fire. So obviously from the get-go there was a huge battle that they had to face. I think for being a weekend and a fire of this scale, the response was phenomenal. Saturday morning at 11:30 is about when this all started. We did have some, EOC support initially was lacking. I don't know that there's a way around that. We have very limited people at that point because everybody needs to be in the field. So how do you call people in to actually start the planning process and coming up with your tactics and all that when everybody's out in the field? It literally was initially Tabitha and I, and then we did get a few others in to help with that.
In your command center? In
the command center. A lot of what they have to do initially is the tracking of when you start calling mutual aid and everything, just who's coming in, where are they going, making sure they stay safe.
That's a huge responsibility.
Yes.
With a response like you had. How many outside agencies did you use?
So our agency list currently is over 50. Fire departments are at about 22 that we have accounted for.
That's impressive, though. We've got.
And you got to remember our location of where we're at has challenges as well, because when they're coming in, Nebraska has different communications than Kansas. Colorado has different, and you got to figure all that out as they're coming in of how are we all going to communicate, and there's challenges with that. So, and then you look at evacuation. We sent out the code red. Initially, we had no option there. We didn't know where all the fire locations were. We didn't know whose houses were in danger initially. So we sent out a blanket code red alert saying, be aware of the fire, where you are to it, and get ready to leave if you need to. When you start looking at possibly evacuating a town, that is a huge thing to plan for, and quickly. One, where are they going to go?
Yeah.
How are you going to get them out of there? Are you going to do grids? So we were doing that initially as well, if it came to that. Thank goodness we didn't get to that point, but as you guys can see, the fires are pretty close to town, and we didn't know if that was going to be something that was going to be needed. We did declare a local declaration early on. That gets pushed up to the state. The governor looked it over, and she immediately declared it as a governor's declaration. What that does is that opens up state resources for us to start getting in here, such as the Kansas Forestry, who come in to help us with planning and tactics and support command. We did have the air tanker come in, the seat planes, what they call single engine air tankers. I believe the first one that came in was from Syracuse. We did have Graces that also went and flew and dumped water. That was on their own. And then later we had the National Guard come in with the Blackhawks. So as you guys, we've had Blackhawks drop bales of hay in the past. This is the first time we've ever done air ops for a fire. And so that was a big learning curve for us. You have to get those locations for those water drops, where they're going to draw from, where they're going to drop it. Change that over to the coordinates for the helicopters, and then they're mission oriented. They're going to drop it where you tell them.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that that's right. And that all went very, very well, especially for our first time here. Sunday, I've gotten some questions on that of, why were the Blackhawks and that flying Sunday and not on Saturday. Saturday, we had weather conditions that kind of hindered some of that. As you can imagine, when you got winds and all that, the Bambi buckets. And they did come in Sunday morning. Our mission there basically was to control any current active fires and then basically dump water on all of these hot spots. We had wind shift from initially we started in the southwest, it went to the northwest, it went to the east. We had fire all the way around town, so we're trying to stay ahead of that and make sure that we keep it contained so we didn't get a fire coming back into town. So that was the mission on Sunday. Because I also cover EMS, I just wanted to mention that we did have 4 staffed ambulances the entire time, and ready to go. We also had 2 911 calls initially, right after the fire page, that were also handled. They were also available if we needed to evacuate people and help with that. So
I'm overwhelmingly impressed by how well this worked.
I do want to say Rick Rogers was a huge local asset for us. When you have this many fires and that, he took Cody up initially, and then I also went later on, just so we could get eyes on it of what do we actually have, where are fires at. And then we were communicating with ground crews, kind of getting them where they needed to be. Because you know, with all the smoke and everything on the ground, you can't necessarily see where things are at. So we are currently working with the FSA on some programs if they become available for farmers. Right now, if anybody lost any feed, we are encouraging them to get with FSA if they have bales burned and such. As you guys can imagine, the daunting task now is all of our documentation and cost assessment and getting all the hours every truck was in use and how many people were on it and who all came in. Our current mapping is we're at 6,000 acres burned. I anticipate that's still going to go up a little bit yet. The total cost estimate so far is $189,000 roughly, and that continues to go up. Initially, we were estimating about $250,000, and I think we're going to be pretty close to that. 50 agencies are on our list as support agencies and 22 fire departments. We did not know a few things initially. The air tanker that came out, that was due to some funding through legislation last year. This was the first deployment for that air tanker out of Hutchinson. That brought along some PIO issues for us because immediately news stories went out that this was the first time the tanker has been out to Cheyenne County, so that alerted everybody. And so one thing we did look at is getting the PIO, which is the public information piece, really going right away to handle that. Media starts calling dispatch, wanting to know what's going on. Dispatch sends them to us. We have, we don't have all the, we're not going to just release information unless we can get to the facts of it. Leslie helped out tremendously in that. We were running things by her before they were released, but we also have to communicate with the public and the media initially.
Sure.
So,
and you are the public information officer for the county, right?
Some of the things that we have learned is we are going to revamp our volunteer teams, get them more active, get them more trained. So when we start getting tons of water, Gatorade, food coming in, we can better coordinate that. It was coming into the firehouse building, our emergency building. We're looking at how can we do that a little differently. We have that happen just in other big fires that we've had in the county. The challenge is we get a lot of traffic up there, and we got fire trucks coming in and out trying to fill up with water, and it becomes a safety issue. Last night we also talked about coming up with auxiliary teams for all departments. One of our challenges was all of our firemen needed to be out there, but we also needed a few people at these different fires, tracking who was there, giving assignments and that. So we're looking at, can we get some retired firemen that know this stuff? They're just not currently on the fire department that can be called in to help with that. EOC support teams locally, we got people that can help in that capacity. And even Cody, as far as traffic control and that, look at getting some auxiliary people that can help with that, because we just don't have the resources locally for that initial period. We can call stuff in, but it takes a while to get it here. So any questions over anything? Okay.
So does somebody like FEMA, do they kick into something like this?
So how that works is our thresholds, we met our county threshold for a disaster. It's less than $20,000 is the local threshold. In order for it to go what they consider a presidential declaration, which is where FEMA kicks in and all that, you have to get to $4.1 million of uninsured damage. Where you see some other disasters in the past go presidential is, winter storms or big storm outbreaks, because you can have 20, 30 counties all going in underneath the same declaration because they were all impacted by the same incident. This particular incident, Cheyenne County is the only one impacted. So therefore, we have to hit the 4.1 million ourselves.
Which will never happen.
It's unlikely. The other key to that is uninsured damage. If it's insured and you're going to get paid for it, we can't count any of that. So.
Now taking months to unravel all that
Yes.
information.
Yep. Any other questions on that? I did want to just mention, I'm working with the Treasurer's Office. We have our annual Code Red bill that comes. The entire bill is approximately $9,500, I believe. What that is we got a, and we did this years ago, but it's based on population. So we combined Sherman, Rawlins, and Cheyenne County all into one contract because it upped our population, which means we got a better price.
Right.
So how that works is Cheyenne County pays the bill, Sherman County pays their portion, Rawlins pays their portion, and it's divided out on population. The bill came, it is paid. One of my challenges is it gets taken out of what we call the grant fund, and I'm not sure why. And so then when that money comes back in, she deposits it back into grants. Well, the issue is it's not a grant. And so I had talked to her about paying it out of my budget, and then when they pay, that money gets transferred back into my budget. There seemed to be some hesitation with that. And I got told that, well, in the end, it'll all work out. My concern is it's going to show me over budget in my budget, even though there's money there elsewhere. And so I don't know how to make that all flow better to actually be accurate, but...
Why don't you get a motion from the commissioners as to what fund this is supposed to come out of? And then those minutes can be taken to Dolores.
Okay.
Okay, do you have a particular fund? Your fund?
Well, I would rather, and I think the best way, and Scott can help me out here, I think it needs to be paid out of my contractual budget, and then the money that Rollins and Sherman pays
Goes back into.
needs
Back in.
receipted in and transferred back into my budget to cover their portion of that.
Okay. So I'm looking for a motion to go ahead and approve. Do you know your number, the budget? No, I guess it doesn't matter if you figure it out, but anyway, the money that has been spent.
Find it just so we can-
Yeah, wait a minute, so we get to make sure we get it correct.
And I understand to a degree what she's saying. You know, I'm within the general, and the general is the general, but I like it documented as to where it came out and the money
Well,
coming back.
It's a little easier to track, and
Well, and it shouldn't be coming out of grant because that's grant money.
Correct.
This is not like,
Right.
this wasn't a grant funded thing.
Well, the other thing is then the Cheyenne County portion, if we're not transferring from my budget into that, then we have a leftover amount in that. That's not
You're
good.
depleting the fund.
Mhm.
Yeah.
okay. Need a motion to go ahead and approve this monies, and I forget your number right off the top of my head. What?
The Code Red bill for $9,500.
Okay, the Code Red bill for $9,500 be taken out of Ryan's budget, and that number is 170-30130. And then monies returned from Sherman and Rollins County be put back into this very same budget. If that makes any sense.
Motion to do it, that they're at the 170-3D130.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
So that should eliminate that problem.
Thank you. So, thank you guys. I do want to say thank you guys for all your support. This weekend also proved that, you know, a lot of times we have to spend money on things that we hope never happen, and we have to train and drill, but it shows that if we don't do that,
Yeah.
we're going to be in big trouble when it happens. So,
Well,
That's a big reason of why this weekend went so well. So,
and I personally have heard nothing but positive. I've not heard one negative.
Could we go into executive session for just about 5 minutes? It won't take any longer than that.
Okay, for,
Non-elected personnel.
okay.
I'll second it. Or I make the motion.
You make the motion.
I'll make
also.
the motion for,
I'll second that. 5 minutes of executive session.
yeah, it was nice that you were able to get everybody in, like Tabitha and Joe and